This video will review how to use the Eastern Florida Library databases to find research for the upcoming paper. So the paper 3 is an annotated bibliography, and this is where you present the research you have found on one author from the textbook that you have chosen to explore. So the first step is really just to go through the textbook, see what author you're most interested in researching and reading more about. So for example, there are a ton of different authors in our textbook, so I'm just going to show two different ones. And first, the step that I always take is to go to advanced search, because this allows you to have 3 keyword boxes instead of just one. So I have also created a little Word doc here to get you guys started with some ideas of how you can go about searching in the databases. 2 of the things that will help you narrow down and make the sources reliable are to search the author's name and even include the text name from the textbook that you are, that was what inspired you to choose the author. So if I want to write about Amy Tan because I enjoyed reading her essay, A Pair of Tickets, then I could go into the library search and type in Amy Tan. You can either just type it that way, or you can say Tan, Amy. Either way works. I might want to type in her text, or I can type in the subject that or theme of some of the writings that I've read by her. I have read several different ones by Amy Tan, so I know that one of her topics that she writes about is language. And the third key term box, and this is just the initial search, so obviously this is not going to just produce all the results perfectly that I was looking for. Part of the research process is to search and then to go back and revise your keywords and to search again, maybe a few more times, to come up with results that you are both interested in and that relate to your topic. So the third that I could use something like criticism, because I want to have some secondary sources that specifically talk about how Amy Tan uses language as a subject or a theme in her works. And so it would be literary criticism that I'm looking for. The other thing, since I am not close to campus, I could just click the items with full text and leave blank the books in the library. If by chance I had found a couple articles already and I am just looking for maybe a video that I want to watch about the author, then I can always go to format and I can scroll down to video, all formats, or just streaming video if I just want the videos that are available online on the computer. So after I have a few keywords, I'm going to hit search, and up comes a bunch of sources. We can see that over 4,000 matching sources. So this could be a little overwhelming. This may make you think, oh my gosh, well, how will I ever find 3 that relate to the author in a way that I'm interested in writing about? So maybe, a lot of the results are coming up pertaining to her well-known book, The Joy Luck Club, and maybe, I'm not going to be writing about that book, so that's not something that I want in the search results. One way to come up with better key terms is just to scroll through the initial search results and see what comes up in some of the titles. So if I'm scrolling through, I see now even the word cultural translation, that might be interesting to add the word culture, because that's something else that Tan talks about, is language and culture. The daughter text, mother text. So that's another theme she talks about, is the daughter-mother relationships. So this is just giving me more ideas. So maybe I think, oh, you know what? Instead of language, I'm kind of more interested in learning about this mother-daughter relationship. So let's see if I get any hits from changing that to mother-daughter. Okay. So now I find that there's a source here, New Feminist Voices in American Literature, Telling Tales of Mother and Daughters. So maybe that is a source that I want to look at. And if I scroll down, I see still a lot of things about the Joy Luck Club. So maybe I want to come up here, and now I can save this one. I can save this. I could email it to myself or add it to my folder. I want to log in so that way it's added to a folder. Oops. And your login is your B number, and the password is month, date, last two of your birthday. So I have this one article saved. Let me add that to my folder now. It was just added to before a guest folder because I wasn't logged in. So now it says my folder has one item. It's saved. I know it's saved in there. Now I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to change it to a pair of tickets because I have noticed that there's a lot of criticism coming up on a book that I'm not interested in writing about. So now I'm looking to see if there's anything on the text, and doesn't look to be anything coming up from that. So another short story that I'm interested in using is Mother Tongue. Because remember, you're using 2 to 3 texts by the author. Okay, so now I've seen this one come up a couple times, so maybe this is another one that I'm willing to look at. I'm going to add that to my folder. I already have that one. Oh, Fish Cheeks, that's another great story. So maybe instead of Mother Tongue, if I don't find any criticism on Mother Tongue, then I might just change my second text to Fish Cheeks. And so you'll see that the part of the research process is to be flexible. So I may think, okay, Amy Tan is the author and these 2 stories are what I want to use. But if I go in here and I see that there's more research on a different story like Fish Cheeks, then maybe I won't use Mother Tongue and I'll use Fish Cheeks instead. Okay, so this is one sample search. This is on Amy Tan. Now, another search I will perform, I will use a different author so you guys can get another look. And this one I will use Tim O'Brien. And this author, the subject that he frequently writes about is war. So I, once again, will use the topic, the author, and then maybe just a keyword like criticism, or for my purposes, I'm going to use the word literature to see what comes up. So I see this result, this search result actually has a lot of good analytical articles about the author. So, the way he writes, Killing Them with Kindness, or an interview with the author. So there's a ton of research from this first result. So we got a little lucky with this author. But there's still ways to revise. So say I'm interested in this because the title grabbed my attention, Killing Them with Kindness, the author's rehabilitation of the violent Vietnam soldier. And also I want to look at urban legends of the same text. Okay, so I added those to my folder. And now I'm going to change war to maybe a psychological approach. And instead of adding the ending of psychology or psychological, I'm going to put an asterisk because this means that all the endings that include psychology, psychologist, and psychological, all the different endings will come up in my search results. This is a term called truncation. I did add a link to our discussion this week, a reply to a classmate's post where I gave the link to the library self-paced tutorial that gives some different search techniques, including this truncation. So anyway, so here I have the author's name. I have an approach to looking at the author. So different approaches are a biographical approach where I just talk about how the author's life impacted their story, which would also work for this author because he wrote about war and he was a soldier. I could look at a psychological analysis of why the author wrote about war. Maybe this was one way for him to be able to work through the haunting remembrances that he had. So this term is really just used as an approach to examining the author and how they wrote. So you'll see even a different type of historical approach popped up here. So this is great, though. This is kind of what I'm looking for. So again, I'm just going to add that to a folder. So now that I've done a search, a few different searches on 2 different authors, I can always go back into my folder. I can read over the articles that I found and go ahead and make my decision, because as of now, I'm looking at 2 different authors. So my first decision is, which author am I more interested in continuing to research and to write about? And it might be that, the first search, maybe that came up with more difficult, everything was all about the novel she wrote, and I didn't really find as much about the short story that I was looking for. So maybe that's the reason why I just want to go ahead and remove those and just focus on Tim O'Brien. So this is just an example of how to get started with paper 3, which is your presentation of research that you will later use to write an essay, which is paper 4. I'm more than happy to help you guys individually if you want to comment in discussion 5 with some keywords that you have used in a search. If you did not have very good results, or if you are trying to decide between a couple authors and you want some feedback, feel free to be specific and post that in the discussion this week. Thanks.